It's a title to catch your attention, yes, but I think it's true. I really think we all need therapy. Now, there's a lot of talk and self-talk about mental health awareness, taking some me time and self-love, and lots of terminology and buzzwords that are going around about looking after your own mental health. Now, I agree it's a good idea to take care of your own mental health. I really do. But the question is, do we really actually make that much effort for ourselves? Now, what I'm really talking about here is, do we really reflect on our relationships, especially our past relationships or toxic relationships and romantic relationships? Well, any relationships really where it's not ended as you might want. So if we were to reflect and think deeply and ask ourselves some difficult questions, we might not like the answer we find. Like, why do I always end up with that kind of guy or that kind of woman? You know, why do my work colleagues treat me that way? Why am I looked at this way? Why do I get this response? What is it? Why are people horrible? Why are people like this? Now, in therapy, most of the time a good therapist will actually reflect and show you the behavior you're giving towards them over time. So, for example, if you go into their office and you're quite aggressive and direct, over time they'll show you how that looks to other people and ask you about that and work on that. But generally, if you're over 18 and you know you live in the modern Western world, then generally we all have some kind of trauma in our lives. Whether it's been a car accident, a death in the family, loss of your grandparents, a divorce, all these things that happen to us in our lives, this baggage that we carry, is a kind of trauma on various levels. So dealing with this trauma, everybody has trauma, but dealing with this trauma, a lot of it depends on the support you have at the time and whether you're in a safe place to express that pain and to vent and to really work on yourself and understand about the trauma that you've gone through. Now, generally, there's kind of 3 layers, is the way I look at it. And on the surface, like the first layer, on the surface, you've got like addictions, an overreaction, overcompensating, overweight, underweight, really moody, depression, anxiety. You got a lot of these buzzwords that we hear a lot. We got a lot of these things happening to us on the surface. And we just kind of accept it, that's who we are. Now, I'll go into a bit more detail in a moment, but there are good ways of dealing with that and bad ways of dealing with that. Now, if you're a very lucky human being and had very little or very small amounts of trauma and you've been able to work through that, and so all you have is very minor low-level issues that you want to work on, something like CBT may be very helpful to you. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, that is for very minor issues, and that can work wonders for a lot of people. But then if you go down into the second layer, you know, a bit deeper, then we're looking at things like transference from, you know, how we dealt and survived from one issue, from one person, then on to the next relationship. And validation, seeking validation, being aggressive to hide your pain, being reserved or being manipulative or a codependency relationship where you kind of need each other, like a Lou and Andy kind of situation, all right? Those are really pretty serious situations that needs to be worked on, you know, that you need to either look at yourself or get professional help with. And you're really kidding yourself if you don't do these, if you don't get that professional help or look into doing it yourself, which I'll come on to in a moment. Okay, so then there's the third layer, which is the deeper, lower level of the real trauma. Now, that's individual for everybody. So it could be a death, it could be a divorce, it could be unsettled, moving around many places and being a single parent family. It could be multiple things, cultural, historical, and even presently what's happening now to you. So 3 different layers. All right, so trauma. Trauma is, for everybody, really difficult to be able to work through, but it is mostly possible for most people. Now, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. For some people, there's a very, very dark, bad side that takes a lot of professional help to get through, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of courage. So I'm very aware, and I know there are some very, very strong people out there that have gone through some really dark times in their life, and they're lucky to come out the other side. So I take my hat off to those people that have that courage. So it is necessary to reflect upon the hurt in our past, to really knuckle down and really ruminate and think about those dark times and those dark places and find out the real truth of the trauma, and then how to allow that to be exercised, you know, like allow it to get out. Now, there are different techniques for this, you know, like writing a letter, a no-send letter. There's going through different stages of different types of therapy, and that is all very good with a professional. And it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of work. Any therapy takes time and work. So the main thing is to find out the real trauma and work through it. I would suggest to do that with somebody that you feel safe with, and exercise that, and somebody that you trust. All right, and maybe even write a journal, but use one of the techniques that help you exercise your trauma. And then really you gotta understand how to learn from it, grow from it, use it as your power of being courageous and hungry for life, and use it as your motivation, your drive for life. All right, so taking that trauma and using it as your power to move forward and to be a stronger, better person, and possibly help other people. Now, reflecting on my own traumas and my own history, I can't afford a therapist, like many of you guys that are watching this. So what worked for me may not work for you, but what worked for me was taking some long, hard conversations and look at myself and look at my behaviors, look at my relationships. Now that's easier said than done, because it doesn't all jump out at you straight away. You've really got to think about it, and you've got to turn the tables and say, well, what about if it was me that was being a bad person? What about if it was me that was reflecting my transference and my issues in this relationship? What about if I take responsibility and just for this purposes of this theory, I blame myself? Now that can give a lot of interesting answers, but obviously if the trauma is because something happened and you do blame yourself, then take a different perspective. But being responsible and asking some difficult questions is the first step. That's what I did. All right. So then the second thing is I was flexible and open-minded enough to seek out some books. because this was before the internet was really big. So I sought out a number of good books. One of the first books was Louise Hay, The Power Is Within You. Now, she's an American woman. I think she's a psychologist. She's very, very open and shows her vulnerability and talks about her history, which is very humbling and how to put it, authentic, you know. So you feel like this person knows what they're talking about, and so that book really helped me to start with. All right, Louise Hay, The Power Is Within You. The second book that I read that really again took me to the next level was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. Now at this point I was working in a prison, again pre-internet, and I went through a lot of personal vulnerabilities and personal self-doubt and issues. And reading that book really gave me a step up and the confidence and like to take that layer off, that layer of being scared, you know. And that really helped me move forward with my life and my decisions. So I'm really grateful for that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Okay, Susan Jeffers. Another book that really, again, changed my perspective and helped me move forward with my relationships was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus by John Gray. Now, this book is quite old now, but still very, very relevant. He's very interesting and put together very nicely to make it understandable, especially for me, because I'm not the smartest person. So to be able to read it or audiobook it now and digest some of the thoughts and the ideas and the perspectives that he shares really was eye-opening for me. All right, I've got a list of them, so I'm going to glance down. What else do I have? All right, now this book is amazing. It's, you know, people always go, oh, it changed my life, that changed my life. This book was really instrumental in showing me the power of counselling. I've never had counselling, but the power of counselling from this one book. And this book was to show me what counselling is about and how it works. And it's called Counselling for Toads. All right, I've just written here, Robert DeBoard, B-O-A-R-D, Robert DeBoard. And it's kind of loosely based on Wind in the Willows, using the characters and Toad as the main character. And it explains how the therapy works, why you need therapy, and how it's a good thing to help you grow and learn and reflect. So that, again, was a very, very eye-opening book. All right, what else have we got? So there's two or three more books, really. So The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-U-C-K was also very good in allowing me to realize that, honestly, I often don't care what other people think. I care about what my close family think about me, and I take it with a pinch of salt, and I do what I want anyway, most of the time. So that book, again, was quite reassuring and quite good. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a. All right, I like that one a lot. I think that's Mark Manson, is it? All right, the last two books that really, really leveled me right up to the top there was The Gift of Therapy. Now, a person I was dating at the time put me on to counselling, and they went from an academic perspective, whilst I was going through more of a layman's perspective and picking up books that were recommended and seemed interesting and that had good reviews. And so this book, The Gift of Therapy, was the third book I read by this author. And this author was Dr. 𝐬𝐿 Yalom. Dr. 𝐬𝐿 Yalom. An amazing psychotherapist that's extremely honest and humble and authentic, that I really enjoy reading his books. It makes things really good. So Dr. 𝐬𝐿 Yalom, The Gift of Therapy. And then after that was, he does another book actually called something like Love's Executioner, That's a brilliant book as well. Love's Executioner, again by Dr. 𝐟𝐵𝐿. Really, really insightful. And he talks about therapy, you know, him being a therapist and his feelings about the patients and about some of the triangles that are going on. It's really clever. And it's into little chapters as well. So it makes it much more digestible and easier to read. So that was a great book. But The Gift of Therapy, and then the one after that I read was Staring at the Sun. Okay, so that's about facing death and find out who you are and giving you, I don't know, the reasons to value your life and to I don't know, embrace who you are. Right, so that was my book list, all right? Dr. 𝐟𝐵𝐿, Susan Jeffries, Louise Hay, and Robert DeBoard. Those are the top books that I really would recommend. That really helped me do my own personal searching and my own personal growth. So those things were really, really insightful for me. As well as that, I also decided no longer to identify as a victim or identify as, well, I didn't have the best start in life, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. And I turned that around completely for me, which then, it made me responsible for one, but also gave me the freedom then to be who I want to be. So that, again, really, really helped. And then on a practical level, what I did on a practical level, and now this wasn't in any books, but what works for me is to write things down. So I wrote down, okay, so now I'm becoming who I am. I give myself a list of what is my aim. So my aim in life, what am I looking at doing right now? What do I really want to pursue? What are my hobbies? Who are my friends? What do I want to do with my life? So things like that, all right? I started with like a mind map and I expanded out from there. And then I get myself things to do. So like on one day a week I do yoga, another day I do YouTube videos, another days I go for walks. I try to go for a walk most days. But I gave myself a planner to focus me to start with. And that's often what I do. I give myself a planner to start with for the first sort of 3 to 6 months. Then after that, I reevaluate whether I need a planner, whether I want to be a bit more free and go with the flow. But that really works for me. Writing things down, the pros and the cons, for example, of a relationship or a job, you know, or a relocation. Writing things down in pros and cons and then making a decision. You can always change your mind afterwards. It's better to make a decision than to procrastinate and put it off for a long, long time. So just make a decision and move forward with it. All right, so that's what I did on a practical level. I write things down. You can write in a journal, you can write yourself a to-do list, you can write yourself a planner, you can write yourself a no-send letter if you're still feeling frustrated and cross with somebody. There's lots of things you can do. And I write them down and it gets out of my head and on paper. And once it's on paper, then you are actually doing something about it and you can take further steps, further actions. So it goes from my head to the paper and then it goes to a to-do list and then I tick it off. And that really alleviates a lot of pressure in my head. And that helps me stay focused and stay positive and know that I'm going somewhere and gives me value. So that's what I do on the practical level. Keep reading books, keep being happy. I look for positive things like positive news on the internet or happy things that are going on in life. Random acts of kindness. Be generous, helping people. Stuff that I've said before in the other videos. All right, so giving some service to your community. Again, that elevates you up. It gives you, instead of getting the dopamine, you get the serotonin or any of the other happy, helpful chemicals within your body to make you feel more positive and grow and be a good person. Okay, so that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.